whenever you
Should
want.
I clap? Hey guys, welcome back to Sundays with Steph. We're here in Flagstaff, Arizona at Hypo2 Sport with my chiropractor, Dr. Wes Gregg. And today I'm going to take you through a typical strength routine.
Here's Stephanie's sheet, which we'll go through. She'll have part of some warm-up exercises, focusing on her hip flexibility, back flexibility, ankle, some areas that Steph needs to continually work on, and then we move into our strength-based exercises.
So I've been working with Wes for the last, 3 years now? Pretty much since I had my last child. And yeah, one thing that we're always working on for me is hip extension, glute activation, and
But everything, core stability,
Core stability.
hip strength, yeah, hamstring strength.
And the goal is just to impress Wes a little more each week.
Easier said than done. All right, Steph's doing just an anterior hip stretch here. Goal is increase flexibility, hip extension through her hip. So what we're working on is keeping her pelvis level, a little bit of a posterior tilt, driving through her back hip to feel that just enough to the front. Same thing other side. So big thing here is pelvic alignment. We don't want to be like tilted forward or really leaning forward from the low back or waist. Tilt that belt buckle up towards her head, squeeze that back glute, get a little reciprocal inhibition.
And I feel like a really big stretch right across here.
Yep. Good. So like commonly you'll see people overarch, kind of like come in through here, a lot of motion through the low back. So it's a big thing we focus on in terms of isolating some of that movement. Go into frog stretch. So this one you're working on, if you have the flexibility or don't have flexibility, you keep your feet crossed. Otherwise we're gonna work wider in here. Same thing what we just worked on in terms of our pelvic alignment with our anterior hip stretch. Bring our hips forward and tilt that belt buckle up towards your head. So tilt and squeeze. Stephanie should feel this one in the inner groin, adductors, whole front part of her pelvis.
It looks really awkward sometimes, so if you're doing this in public, don't ignore that.
Both hit the anterior part of the hips, and then to work her posterior part of her hips, we're going to one called 90-90. The reason it's called 90-90 is we have 90-degree angles through the front and through her back leg. Just a little. Perfect. Good. From there, she'll go right hand, left knee. Right hand, left knee. Good. And then bring forward. Yep. There you go. So goal is she should feel this back of her left hip. Stephanie does a really good job not bending at the waist. She's trying to move from that hip joint here so she feels a good stretch in the back of her left glute. Same thing other side. All right, now that Steph's kind of targeted some of her areas she needs to work on in terms of flexibility, we'll work in just some easy warm up here with some band exercises. So we'll start with side leg lateral walks. So Stephanie's gonna start about shoulder width and never come closer than shoulder width as she works out.
You can call this sometimes the walking band complex, right?
Sure.
Or
Yeah.
at least I do to remember.
Yep. So you'll notice Stephanie does a good job of staying at least shoulder width, not letting her feet come closer together, and work back the other way.
It really starts to burn.
Yeah, should feel it sides of her hip. So you see Stephanie does a good job keeping her upper body still. She's not getting a lot of sway. Most of the motion occurs at the hips. Good, and knee bend. One thing you'll see, Stephanie does a good job kind of lining her shins and back up. Good here, she doesn't come too far forward onto her toes, doesn't sit too far back. Good. And keep those bands safe. Next exercise we're going to do is a kettlebell swing. Kettlebell swing is a hip dominant exercise. We're working on some pop and snap in terms of her strength and stability. You'll notice Stephanie does a good job going backwards through her waist. Good, not overarching her back at the top, locking out her hips at the end. So with the kettlebell swing, Stephanie does a really good job moving through her waist, not a ton through her knees. It's more of a backwards and forth motion. Does a good job bringing her chest down without rounding her back, and does a good job keeping her feet rooted into the ground. Next exercise we're going to do is a deadlift. Okay, so Stephanie's going to start with the bar at her shins, touching her shins. Yep, good, tight through the back. Bar's going to slide up and down her leg. Good. So Stephanie does a good job again here, driving through her heels, hips going backwards, bar staying as close to her center of gravity as we can keep it. Good, great trunk alignment.
How much weight is this?
This is 75 pounds. So about 3/4 of Stephanie's body weight. Good. And one more. Nice. Good. The hardest part for a lot of runners is just racking and unracking the weights, so try to help with that.
I'll do strength training twice a week, but what Wes will do a great job is he alternates. So if I deadlifted today, my next session I would probably be doing back squats. So we kind of switch off what kind of squatting and lifting we're doing. Would that be correct?
Yeah, so we'll typically do if we're doing a squat one day, then we'll do like a single leg deadlift. If we deadlift one day, then we'll do like a single leg squat to pair it up in terms of, that's how we usually break it up.
Yeah, and for our team, we meet twice a week, and it no longer goes around whether we're working out or not. So a lot of times a lifting session will happen the day after a workout, or sometimes it'll happen the day before. And I think that's a lot of question for people. They're wondering, you know, what day of the week should I be lifting? Honestly, I think it's up to your routine and what works for you. Some people like to totally front load their hard days, so they might do a hard session in the morning, lift, do another second run, and then that's their full day of like a toughness or a hard day. And then the next day, they just have easy run, next day easy run, and then they lift again and do a workout. So you kind of have to just figure out what works for you.
Just doing it's more important than figuring out what day.
Yeah. True.
Yep. So here Stephanie's doing a reverse lunge. We're working on the reverse lunge here. As I like going backward, it just makes it a little more hip dominant than a forward lunge. What she's working on is 90-degree angles at the bottom, pulling up through that left heel and making sure her left knee doesn't go inside of her left ankle. Stephanie's been working very hard on increasing some of her back and lat strength. So she's able to do her first pull-up ever last year?
Last year, yeah.
Yeah, right? So
it only took me 34 years.
That's right. So it's never too late.
Never too late.
Never too late. So here's a good way I like to start. If you're unable to do a pull-up, start with some inverted rows. TRXs work great. They're in most commercial gyms. Otherwise, you can use a barbell. What we'll do here is Stephanie will work. For her difficulty, we're working further under, but we want to go about as far as she can where we can keep good balance in terms of straight line, head to our heels, and then we're pulling thumbs to our armpits. Working on coming all the way up. Nice. We'll do your pull-up, face that way. All right, so this was Stephanie's big goal last year.
God, what if I blow it? We can show a quick how I got there. Here's a little quick tip about how to teach yourself how to do a pull-up.
So we would start with the box a little higher where Stephanie could start up top, and start there and then slowly lower herself down. We started with using rings and then barbell. Yeah, worked on her ability to kind of hold and control herself from the top down.
Probably did this for almost a year.
Did that for a while.
Yeah, cool.
So a good drill for runners here is a single leg balance drill where Stephanie will work on transferring her weight from one side to the other with the kettlebell here. Stephanie does a good job of focusing, trying not to lean as much as she can and staying isolated through the hip. Commonly you'll see people kind of drop that hip to the side. You want to make sure you kind of stay nice and level through the hips and pelvis.
This feels like a really great oblique exercise.
Help your body's working. So when Stephanie comes up, big thing is maintaining a straight angle through the hips. Keep the hips extended when you come up. Another exercise we're going to do is called stir the pot. So stir the pot, Stephanie's going to keep her hips and pelvis as still as she can and just do little circles with her elbows. Good. The smaller the circles, the easier it'll be. As you make bigger circles, the harder it'll get. Big thing is making sure we have little to no movement here and no arch in the back. You'll see Stephanie does a good job of staying very flat, not arching her low back for that stability.
And then sometimes if you want a little more challenge, you can have someone hit the ball.
Ben's much better at that than I. Ben. So this next exercise we're going to do is called the Viper push through. It's going to be designed to work her obliques and anterior core. Stephanie's going to stabilize through her hips and pelvis, go back and forth from side to side. Stephanie makes this look really easy. So oftentimes what we did to kind of work on the stability is in the early days, put this ball on her back, make sure that doesn't move. So Steph's core control here is really good. She's staying nice and level through her hips. weights through her foot, and then front arms. All right, so we're gonna do a little toe yoga with Stephanie, just to help work on strengthening her feet. So first thing we're gonna do is just raise just the big toes off the ground, push the outside 4 toes in the ground. So outside 4 toes down, big toes up in the air.
I know. The left leg can do it.
Yep, and then we reverse. Push the big toes down into the ground, raise the outside 4 toes up, both sides. Both sides. Yep, good. Then reverse it. Big toes down, big toe up, outside 4 toes down.
Right one.
It's an IQ test. There you go. Next exercise we're gonna do is short foot. So Stephanie needs to work on bringing her arch up, contract her foot, trying to shorten it. Good. Work on that arch strength. Good. Relax. Good. So you can see, watch her foot contract. You can even see the musculature working on the inside part of her foot.
You pointed it again?
There you go. Good. So right here, Stephanie's working on relax, relax. Good. And then bring that arch up. Shorten that distance between her big toe and her heel. Other exercise we're going to do is stand on top of calf and lower leg injuries. We're going to work on the eccentric. So Stephanie's just going to lightly lean into the wall here. Come up on 2 legs. Switch over to 1, and then slowly go down. Good. Should take about 5 to 7 seconds to go down. Come back up. And again. There's 2 versions of these we will do. One's going to be with a straight knee, as you can see. And then we also work with a bent knee going forward. Good.
So that's what a typical strength session looks like for me. Like I said, I do these 2 times a week. I'd say the difficult part is a lot of times I'm going into these sessions really tired because I'm running between 90 and 100 mile weeks. So sometimes the motivation is pretty low. One thing I'm really lucky that I'm part of a team and we get to come somewhere like Hypo 2 and work out. So I know a lot of you guys are either doing this in your home gym or you're doing this by yourself. And so if motivation is something that you're lacking, just think, wouldn't you rather spend, 5 to 10 minutes of doing these like really minute exercises with great form versus running so much that you get injured and you're not able to then keep running. So for me, when I first started doing these, it was more important for me to spend time in the gym versus get that extra mile in. And I think that's something to look forward to, or that's something that you want to think about where you're at in your own running. If you only have an hour a day, and so maybe you devote 30 minutes of that to running and 30 minutes to strength work, because you don't want to do strength work when it's too late, when you already have an injury and now you're rehabbing it. I like to call all of this stuff prehab. You want to be able to do this stuff so you can prevent injuries and allow yourself to go out and train and crush the miles and crush races.
Preach.
Thanks for hanging out with me on another Sunday. Hope you guys are enjoying the episode so far. If you haven't, make sure you feel free to subscribe so you never miss an episode. I said this in the first episode, but when I hit 5,000 subscribers, I'm gonna start giving away gear from my sponsors, so you don't wanna miss out on being one of those lucky subscribers. If you have any questions about today's session or some of the exercises, feel free to drop in the comments. I love hearing from you guys. I've gotten a lot of good feedback and a lot of good suggestions on what I could do for future episodes. So hopefully you guys will see those in the coming shows. Boom, nailed it.
Nailed it.